All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. This is the first time I do it, so pretty nervous actually. So yeah, no, I'm very excited. And yeah, tonight I wanted to talk to you guys about service workers. I've been thinking for a little while about what can I bring to the table. Like, I've been a software engineer for a few years now, and I'm thinking, what do I know that I could share with others that would be worthy? And this is kind of like what I thought. The topic of service workers has, I think, a lot of potential for that. And so, yeah, let's get into it. And so, the subtitle, I wanted to go for a little pun, so I said, "Go offline or go home." All right, I don't know if this is the best pun ever created, probably not, but I wanted to create an impression. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about me. So my name is Steve Gherkin, obviously, and I'm a pickle with 4 years of experience in condiments, and I work at Brinleyfi. I'm an expert in juice network solutions, and so if you have any juice network questions, I'm the guy. No, I'm just kidding. This is not really my real name, but as you can tell, my first language is not English, it's French. And so my real name is actually Yves Gherkin. So that's a little tougher to say. That's okay, because I happen to be French and also Turkish at the same time. So Gherkin is, it's even crazier. Like my last name is Gherkin in French, but it's pronounced different in Turkish. So anyway, this is me. Call me whatever you want. Some people call me Yves or whatever. And thank you, Bishop. And so I'm yes, Ryan? I do. I work with Liz Martin at CBT Nuggets. Woo! Yes, a round of applause for Liz. Apparently, who is she? Liz Martin, actually, she's a product owner at CBT Nuggets, and she is awesome. She always has our back. She's a great, great, great person. So anyway, I'm a full stack developer there at CBT Nuggets. I've been there for a year now. My hands are all into the JavaScript world, so React, Node, MongoDB, if you want to consider it JavaScript. So this is kind of, JavaScript is what I do all day, and this is a big, service workers are also into the world of JavaScript, and so this is why also I wanted to talk about something close to what I work with every day. All right, so I wanted to do, maybe we can do a little show of hands here, and I wanted to ask you if you guys have ever used service workers at work. Is there anybody who used it at work? Yes, one. All right, and there's no shame. It's not a shaming exercise. I'm not trying to say, the good guys, the bad guys, whatnot. No, I just want to know because this is something that I'm very curious about. What's the situation on this? And so having you guys are like a sample is very interesting to me. So, has anybody here ever used service workers at home or on a personal project or for fun? Got somebody else. Oh, aha, a few ones over there. Nice. Okay, is there anybody who heard about them but never used them? I see. This is a few more. And then, is there anybody here who doesn't know what it is? Nice. Yeah, you can be brave, courageous. There's no shame in that. I totally understand. Okay, that's interesting. We have a various crowd here, and I feel like there's more like a bump in the middle. Is that an expression? Oh man, as a French speaker, what I say doesn't make any sense sometimes. Anyway, ooh, that looks too big. Interesting. Okay, so one of the questions that I think is important to ask first when you want to talk about service workers is like, how many websites are going to still work when you are offline? So you are on your mobile phone or you are on your laptop, and let's say you are, I don't know, for some reason you don't have any more connectivity, or for some reason there's no more ways for you to get connected to the internet. So how many websites are going to be able to handle this in a way where, if you are writing a document on this website, it's going to still be there, saved, and whenever you go back online, it's going to be backed up and synced up, and so you don't have to worry about having the internet or not. So that's one of the big questions that Service Worker is trying to resolve for us. And then another big slides. Oh boy, I made them way too big. I tried to correct them a little bit before the presentation, and then this is way too big now. Anyway, there's this big study in the world of JavaScript, which is called the State of JavaScript, and it happens every year. So this is the most current one for 2018. And so every year they ask a bunch of questions, and they're trying to feel the trends, like what is coming, what are people using, what type of tools. And this chart right here was about which new browser APIs are getting traction in 2018. So they were asking, what is the thing that's kind of hip and that you want to get involved in, and at the very top is service workers. So there's 8,000, almost 9,000 people who said, I believe that service workers are getting this traction into the browser API. And so below that, you see progressive web apps, which is another very important keyword right there that we're going to talk a little bit in a little bit. And then you have also web components, WebGL, the Web Animations API, the Web Audio API. So lots of interesting stuff right there. It's very experimental. WebRTC, WebAssembly, which I think we talked about in this meetup before, which is also very exciting. And we have the Web Speech API and also WebVR, so Web Virtual Reality. I didn't even know that was a thing. That's crazy. So as you can see, service workers are at the very top of the list of the survey. So this is really something that's getting there. And when you look at this chart, which is taken from the website caniuse.com, I don't know if you guys ever looked at this website. It's so useful. Like if you have a feature and you don't know if it's supported by Chrome, Firefox, or Mozilla, or Chrome, Firefox, or Safari. If you don't know if there's a feature that you can use in HTML or CSS or JavaScript, this website, caniuse.com, is really important because you can make sure that your users are going to be able to use that and leverage the feature. And when it comes to service workers, you can see that this is pretty much all green. And it's been for not too long, actually. It's been all green only since April 2019 when it comes to browsers on laptop devices, but also mobile devices. So service workers, they're very hype. Yep. So the story of service workers, it started back in actually 2014. So service workers have been, in the specs, the creating of the specs, and the whole adoption by web browsers back to 2014. And I think the first browser that actually adopted it, tried to support it, was Chrome and Opera. And then they had there's partial support, and then it comes in Firefox in 2016 was ready to go with service workers, and then Safari and Edge came later in 2018. So Google was very much involved in this in the very first steps, and then it came all the way to Safari on laptop devices, and after that came mobile support. So 2014 all the way to 2019, early 2019. That's 5 years. So it took a while to get there, but now you can you can pretty much be sure that somebody is going to be everybody, the majority of users are going to be able to run it basically, and that's a huge relief. So in short, is service worker ready? The answer is yes. And this is actually a screenshot from a website by this guy called Jake Archibald. And I would totally recommend you guys to take a look at it. It has a bunch of information on the subject. But right now is the right time to adopt service workers. And so service workers are actually part of something bigger, and this is kind of like the buzzword, I think. It's PWA. Do you guys know what PWA mean? Right? Progressive app. Yes, progressive web app. That's what it is. And so this is a word that's used a lot. It's very elegant and easy to use. Like, oh yeah, progressive web app. It sounds so great. You know, got the idea of progression, the future. We're just so ahead of everything. But do you guys know what it really means? Do you know like what are the components of a PWA? Is there any ideas of what it is, Ryan? So yeah, the being offline is definitely part of what a progressive web app is. That's for sure. Progressive enhancement. What do you mean? Right, kind of like this idea of like being kind of accessible by all, kind of thing. Right, yeah, PWAs are definitely are a bunch of features, and the manifest is definitely part of it. So basically, so when you talk about progressive web apps, Google has a definition for us, and Google has everything. You know that already. But this is a very important part, and you know Bishop last time was talking about SEO and how to promote your pages and make sure that you reach as many people as you want. And having a progressive web app is a way for Google for you to be in the page, you know, to be on the forefront, because Google will actually look at how much your app is a progressive web app. And so when it comes to a PWA, there's a few different elements that come into play. And the first one is that you need your app to be served over HTTPS. So this is a safety concern. This is the idea that, you know, when you're transferring data from a server and a client, this connection needs to be encrypted. Otherwise, it's a no-go. It's not a progressive web app. It's not possible because we know that HTTP, it's nice, but it's not secure. So we need to have this S in there, HTTPS, and to have this whole idea of certificates and being, you know, a trusted origin and all that stuff. That's part of what a progressive web app is. Another part of that is the responsive design. So does your app look good and is usable on a mobile phone or on a tablet or on a laptop or even a bigger screen? That's one aspect of it. And as you said earlier, being accessible offline is a big deal for being part of this and for getting that, you know, leverage from Google when people search for you, you know, being available offline, that will promote you into those search pages. And so the offline accessibility, this is where service workers come in play. This is where they're gonna help you do that. And then, as Nathan mentioned, the app manifest is also another aspect. We're not going to talk about this very much, but it's just basically the idea that you need to be able to describe your app, and that makes it also easier for users to install your app on their phone. And there's also, you know, it needs to be interactive in less than 10 seconds on a phone on 3G. So, you know, you need to not be crazy and have to ask users to load a bunch of stuff on the first load on the page. Also, being cross-browser compatible is part of this definition. So being able to, for users to see the site on Safari, on Firefox, on Chrome, this is a big deal. Also, there's the idea that when people are going to your site, they should be presented with something. So if it's a blank page, Google is not going to be happy about it, and it's going to kind of demote you in the search results. So you want to make sure you're showing some content, whether it's a placeholder of like a skeleton. And then there's another bunch of other things that I can't see anymore, so I don't remember on top of my head. But yeah, the slides will be available offline, online, not yet. So you'll be able to see that after the presentation. So we talked a lot about being offline, the progressive web apps. There's other benefits to service workers that come with the package, and the idea is that obviously you provide this offline experience to your users. That's, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but to me, I mean, right now I guess it's not as much as an issue, but before I used to be in situation where I did not have connectivity all the time, and having to prepare for this sometimes is hard, you know. And offering this ability to, you know, let's say, I don't know, you're a bookstore, an online bookstore, and I mean, audio bookstore, or let's, you know, like a Kindle type of thing where you can just read a book on a tablet. Having these books available offline, if you're in the nature, like you're going camping for the week, then it's, you know, it's important to you, and you can maintain this connection with your user. So this is where service workers are going to be very useful. Another thing about service workers is that you're going to increase the performances of your app because you're going to be able to cache anything you want in the browser. So when people go on your website, you're going to be able to do, you know, things like style sheets, or like, you know, the design aspect of the website, or any content. You're going to be able to put it right there into the browser. And so next time when they come, they don't have to load it again. It's right there, it's ready. And so you're going to be able to show meaningful content to your users much more quicker. Another thing is that because service workers are kind of deviating the traffic, you're going to be able to use your backend, your servers, your APIs less. And so when you serve this cache to your users, you don't have to, you know, your backend, your servers don't have to be as busy. You don't have to ask them as much. And so you can reduce your cost that way. If you are using, for example, AWS, just randomly picked one provider, and you have to pay, you know, by the number of requests that are getting sent to your API, and by the, you know, the load that is being, the payload that's being transferred, then your bill is going to go down by that way, because you can just serve the cache content without having to think about it. Another cool thing about service workers is that you can do push notifications on phones and also on laptops. So that's really, really, really powerful. That's a very powerful tool. And this is also a simple graph. I didn't draw it. I don't have the design skills for that. But this is a little graph that I found on a blog post that is linked somewhere as well on my slides, I believe. And so this is kind of describing the principle behind service workers. So as you can see, the service worker is right there in the middle. That's the blue box. And the main thread is lingo in JavaScript, just to say kind of like the script. So all that logic, all the, you know, sometimes, let's say you want, when your user click on a button, you want to do a little something, or if you are using React because you're fancy, you know, there's all these logic right there. The main is what we would call the main thread in JavaScript. So the service worker is the link between that main thread and the network. And so basically with a service worker, what you can do is that whatever your script, whatever your website needs to load, when they have to do a request to their backend, when they need data about a user or about an order or about a customer or whatever, the service worker, it's always going to be right there in the middle, and you have the opportunity to fetch, to intercept that request and to do whatever you want with it. And so instead of actually fetching the data from your server, you can say, hey, this data is already in the cache, which is down here. And you can say, because this is the same user, because we're pretty sure the information about this credit card or his last name hasn't changed, we can just get this and serve it immediately. So instead of asking the server and waiting for 3 seconds to come back, you just say, hey, here's your last name. We know that immediately, and it takes 50 milliseconds instead of 1 second, for example. So this is the main principle behind service workers, and this is also a principle that is very powerful. Yeah, did you have a question? So, so the question was, instead, so because JavaScript has a whole bunch of different ways to store data. So in a browser, so there's the cache, but there's also something called local storage. There's also something called a IndexedDB, which is kind of like you can have a small little database in your browser, which is kind of super crazy. But like there's a few little ways you can store your data in the browser and not have to ask the backend for anything. And Nathan is asking about why would you use the cache API? Why would you go into the cache instead of local storage? And there's a few things here, and I think the major argument is that something like local storage is very limited in terms of how much browsers give space to local storage. So in local storage, I think the limit is like 5 megabytes of data. So anything big, if you want to for some reason have a binary file, you cannot put in local storage because it's going to explode. And when local storage explodes, who knows what happens to this data? I think basically the browser just say, I don't care, I'm just going to erase everything. So the cache API doesn't have this limitation. It's a much bigger pool, if you want. It's got the browser trusts the cache API much more, and so you can really pack it with a lot of data. I think it's a percentage. I can't remember the exact number, but yeah, Antonio. Yeah, you can use local storage when you're offline. That's true. With the what? Yeah. Mm. Right. That's exactly it. So Antonio was asking why, how would the app know how to use a local storage when you're offline because you're offline? Well, this is the beauty of the beast, if I may say, is that basically by intercepting network requests, you're stimulating an online state, and so the service worker, your app is going to work like it usually does. It will just keep sending requests like it thinks it's online, except that the service workers say, oh, wait, I have something else for you in my cache. And so it will maintain the state of the app even if it's actually not online. Bishop? Well, I guess state is kind of a word. Basically, if you want to think it of a more simple way, it's just the idea that when you are on your browser and you type a URL address in there that's used to go google.com and you press enter, a service worker is going to be able to say, oh, you're offline, but I have something to serve you. So instead of seeing, as I was showing earlier, instead of seeing this guy with a little dino at the top, the service worker is going to be able to say, oh, hang on, you're offline, but don't worry, I have my full app ready to be here, and it's going to work just the way you want it to work when you're online. So that's the crazy thing about this. It's like this is separated from your app. The service worker is actually, it's not your app, it's outside of your app. It lives in the browser, and it's able to understand that you want to connect to something that is not available and will bring it to you because it's in the cache. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question? Kind of. So, so I don't think we need to worry about the word state. It might not be the right word, but if you think of state as offline versus online, what the service worker is capable to do is that when you go to google.com, the service worker is able to intercept your request and say, oh, you are offline, but I do have content to show you so that you can still do what you expected to do when you went to google.com. So that's where the service worker uh, gets in there. Yes, exactly. That's so the service worker it loads in your browser and then it provides the cache. So it will cache the app and then it will serve it back to you when you're offline or also when you're online. Does that Yes. Whether it's on your laptop or on a Kindle or a tablet or a phone, if and as you've seen, like 95% of browsers support this now, so it's gonna be able to do that for you. Yeah, awesome, great. Yeah, I think it's great. These are great questions. I want to make sure it's clear. Ryan, did you want to ask something? Yes. Yes. Yeah. So just to repeat, so we have it also on the stream is so basically, as Ryan explained, the service worker lives in the browser, but it doesn't live in your app. It lives separately from it. So when you look at this graphic right there, you see the main thread. You can think of it as your app. This is all the CSS, the HTML, the pretty pictures, the cat pictures, whatever you want to your users to see and to use. This is all this logic right there. This is all in there. The service workers, it lives separately from that. It lives in the browser, and it's capable of intercepting whatever comes to the network and look into its cache and serve it to you. And so, for example, if you go to Twitter, if you have either the app or if you go on twitter.com, you will see that when you go there, immediately you will see the tweets that have been tweeted before that you've seen. And so whether you're offline or online. So if you have no internet but you want to go on twitter.com, you're going to be able to see that. And then because there's some extra logic in the service worker, it's going to fetch all the new tweets and it's going to bring them back to you. Yeah. Yeah. You are exactly right. The service worker is a very powerful tool, and so it basically, when your app is asking for a resource, you're gonna be able to say, "Oh, you wanted this resource? Oh, no, no, I'm gonna give you this other one." You can do that if you want, but you can, for example, if you don't want to provide a full offline experience for your users, you can still show them a page that says, "Hey guys, I'm sorry, we noticed you're offline, but we can serve you this little pretty picture instead." So you can actually divert everything and show something completely different. Bishop, did you have another question? Yeah. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. So that's a very good question. The question is, can you have a service worker in a mobile app? And the answer to this is pretty much no, because the service workers it's a web API. It's a technology that lives in the browser. So if there's no browser, there's no service worker. And the idea also behind the service workers is to be able to mimic the behavior of a mobile app, because you can you can install your mobile app and then go offline on Twitter if you want to, and the service worker is going to be able to do that as well, but instead of going to your Twitter app, you go to twitter.com and it will be behaving exactly like a mobile app, except that one of the benefit of this is that you as a user on your mobile phone, you don't have to go on the App Store. You don't have to go on Google Play. You don't have to go on the App Store. You can just go to twitter.com and it will be ready for you. And so that's one of the big things. Like, instead of downloading 20 or 30 megabytes of data and waiting for a few seconds for your app to be downloaded, you just have it right there, right now when you need it. Yeah. No, you're fine. I mean, I was gonna cover all of this, but talking about it in a more organic way is totally fine. I love conversations, so if it's okay with everybody else. So this logic, so you're saying you have, so your question is, can you store the request and when you're online you send it? Wait. Okay, if you have. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, quick answer is yes, and the longer answer is that it's up to you. This is as a this is your own logic that you write in your code. It's up to you to just to send this request and see that it's not going through, and then say, okay, this is not working, so we're gonna wait 5 seconds, and then we're gonna try again in 5 seconds, or we're gonna check, oh, the status is offline, the state. I go back to this word, but like, okay, this phone is offline, so we're not gonna try again. We're just gonna wait for the phone to go back online, and then we're gonna send this request. And all this logic is logic that, as a developer, you have to write yourself. And this is also logic that you can write in your service worker if you want to, or straight in your app as well. So yes, you can always, find a way to catch the data again when it's actually available. That's something that you can do, and you can leverage the service worker for that. But this is up to you to write that logic in your code. So is the service worker, does it serve the same purpose as the progressive web apps? Is that your question? Wait. Right. Oh, a native application, yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, so basically, a lot of the power of the service worker, as you said, is that, and I was just talking about how when you can go on your mobile app offline and you still will be able to see maybe your profile or like the latest data that you care about, and but it's offline, so it's not going to be able to fetch the recent data. And with service workers, you can create the same behavior as well, the same feeling, the same impression. And so the trick here is that when you can also save your like if you go to a website and there's especially on Android phones, there's a way for you to save this on your home screen on your phone, and then there's an icon as well, and then it can look as well on your home screen like a mobile app. And when you click on it, you don't have the address bar at the top like you would if you were using Chrome, for example. It would just look exactly like a mobile app. And that's a very powerful tool that we have. And in many ways, this is also a way where we can change from the paradigm of having the mobile app on Apple, the mobile app on the Google Store, and then having your web app. This is a tool that allows you to actually have just one app on the web, and everybody can use it and have the same feel as a mobile app. Like this is the great tool that you can leverage for that purpose. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard of something like Electron, but I know there's a few options out there where the it's basically what you just described, is the idea that you are still on your browser, but it doesn't look like your browser. It looks like your app. So that way you can brand it. You can brand this application, this your web app, as just another mobile app, but in reality, in the background, it will be using Chrome, for example. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, Slack is a good example of an Electron app. Mhm. Sorry, could you say that again? Mhm. Yeah, that's a Yes, you are exactly right. So the idea of having your app, your web app, be on the home screen of users on their phone, this is actually something that's made possible by the app manifest. This is the data that your mobile phone will read to understand. Oh, this app should be acting like a mobile app. But then the capacity of accessing the data offline is the service worker. Mm. Yeah, that's a good question. Right. So basically, if you want to think about it, service workers are kind of like the tool that you can use to provide the experience that you want for your users when they're offline. So service workers in themselves, they don't do anything. They just, you need to write the logic to be able to handle these requests, because on themselves they don't do much. But the truth is that with just 20 lines of code, you can cache your entire app and have this ready for offline. So with just this code right there, your app is completely available offline. And so, of course, this code, you'll have to write it yourself. But you can see there's like event listeners, and you were talking about post message. And post message is a method that's available on service workers. And it's a way for you to send a message to your worker. And this is when you want to trigger a specific event. You want to say to your service worker, hey, by the way, I wanted to ask you something, and this gives you the opportunity to return something to the app. So this is, post message is one way the service worker and the app can talk to each other. But another event right here is install. You can see it on line 16, and the install event basically happens when you register your service worker on your app, and this gives you the opportunity to say, hey, okay, I'm installing this worker, and I'm going to put a lot of stuff in this cache, so that next time when the user reload the page, I'm going to be able to give you the cache. So install is your opportunity to put everything you want in pre-cache. And then you have the fetch event. And this is the one that's key, because fetch event is triggered every time your app is connecting to something. When anytime it's talking to an API, or even if it's looking for an image on your app, the fetch event is going to be triggered. And here you can, if you want to, you can say, oh, you wanted this image? Oh, no, I'm going to send you a video instead. If you want to, I don't see why you would want to do that, but you have the full power to say, my app wanted to see lolcat.gif, but I gave them something else instead. So this logic is all up to you. And that's why it's a very powerful tool. And that's why also there's the notion of scope into service workers. And I'm going to take my breath for a second. I'm very excited that people are so passionate about the topic. But basically, service workers are contained into a domain. So if you own, well, again, it's not a great example, but google.com, if you have a service worker on google.com, it's only going to be able to control your app on google.com. And so, yes, there is, for sure. There is. There's a, yeah, actually, when you open your browser, oh, thank you. Oh, that's so nice. It is vodka. It is vodka. But yeah, anyway, what I was saying, I don't even remember. Yeah, scope. So the idea of scope is that if you are on google.com, you're not going to be able to interfere with somebody who has a service worker on firefox.com. That's a very bad example again, but your service workers are contained to their own scope. So you can still fetch, if somebody is on google.com and they're trying to do request to firefox.com, your service worker is still going to be able to intercept these and say, hey, no, I want something to bring you something else. But if you are on firefox.com, then your service worker on google.com is not able to touch that. So there's a very clear limit between the two things. And there's more question, but Ryan, what did you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's the fetch has nothing to do with fetch API. It doesn't matter if you're using fetch or Ajax or whatever the request, whatever the way you do your request. Even if it's just an image tag, an HTML image tag, and you have a src attribute on it, this is going to go through fetch as well. I don't know how they work actually. Aren't they in emails? The pixels? I don't know. Right. Sorry, could you say that again? Mm. Right. Yes. Right. Yes. Right. Yeah. These events get triggered automatically. So every time you you request a resource, whether it's an image or something from an API or anything that's a resource that is not available on the page, it will trigger a fetch event. And yeah, totally. Right. So exactly. So because all the requests are going to be intercepted, you want to, if there are things you don't want to intercept and you just want them to happen the way you want, you're going to have to write the logic for this. And actually, you were talking about the fetch API. The fetch API in this event listener is also available, and that's probably going to make things even more confusing. But but basically, what you can do here is you intercept the request and you can say, oh, I don't want to do anything with this. I'm just going to let it happen the way it was meant to happen. And so you just let the request happen and return the payload as a response. Or you can say, oh no, I want to make sure that, I'm going to look into my cache and say, oh, I have something in my cache for this request. And because, in that event, you can tell what the user is looking at, what is requesting, what is a URL that they're trying to hit. And so in this part, you can just say, oh, this URL, I have something in my cache for it, so I'm going to return it instead. Or you can say, I'm going to return the cache to you, but I'm going to also send a fetch request and update the cache silently and then send you that updated resource as well. So you can do this 3 different types of scenario where you say, oh, I'm not going to interfere with the request, or I'm going to give you the cache, or I'm going to give you the cache and update it at the same time and also send you the updated payload. So you can do all this crazy stuff in there. Yes, and that's right. The service worker is available all the time, whether you're online or offline. It's capable to do that. In Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get to decide what you want to serve. If you want to serve fresh content or if you want to serve stale data and fetch new content and all that stuff. Yeah. Bishop, did you have a question over there? Not anymore. Yeah. Oh yeah, whatever. Yeah, so the service worker, it lives in there in the browser, and if you go the usual route of settings, clear image and files and all that stuff, you can get rid of all of them. Yeah, that's just in your browser you have the ability to just say I don't want these anymore. But then when you go back to google.com and you're offline, oh, there's nothing else to offer. So the first time you go to google.com, in order for it to work offline, you need to be online at least once first. So you go to google.com, the service workers install itself in the browser, and then you you go offline, you go to google.com, and magically it works. But if you erase that service worker, then no more google.com for you when you're offline. You've been instructed something? Hmm. What is? I'm sorry, I don't know very much about Facebook Pixel, but what is it? Right. Uh huh. Uh huh. And so what do you say? There it is. What is it? Mm-hmm. Mm. So the question is, when you have a Facebook pixel on your website, is there a Facebook service worker that comes into play? Is that your question? Yeah. So the answer is so because let's say you're on google.com again, it's a bad example, but you are on google.com and there's a Facebook pixel on it. This Facebook pixel request is going to be intercepted by the google.com service worker. The facebook.com service worker is not going to be in effect because it's not the same domain. It depends on the domain that you. Right. Yes. Yeah, I believe so. That the yes the logic behind the Facebook pixel is handled on the Facebook servers, not on your server. Yeah. Right. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we were able to bring an answer to something I didn't know. Ryan. Oh, it's already my presentation is over already. Like we pretty much covered everything. Yeah. Yes, that is correct. Right. Yeah. So there's still my little graph that I had earlier. So you see the main thread, the service worker, they live in different worlds, and the main thread is the world of the DOM, and the service worker is its uh, own realm. And so when you look at the code, you can see here that you have on line 16 self dot. And so this self is the reference to the service worker itself. And so no, from a service worker, you cannot manipulate the DOM. You cannot say, oh, I'm going to grab this HTML tag, whatever it is, a list or a paragraph or a div, and I'm going to change it. You can't do that. There's a payload that exchanges between the main thread and the worker. So the whatever it is, whether it's a fetch request or whether it's a post message, the main thread is going to send something, the service worker is going to intercept it and is going to respond to it. Then the app can respond to whatever the way they want to it. If they, if you send a request for a resource, the service worker say, oh, here's that payload. It's not what you wanted, but whatever. The app is also free to say, I don't want this. I'm just going to ignore it. I like how my answers just create more questions. I don't even know which. Right. That's right. Yes. It's Right. Yes. 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 The service worker is just one way for you so that when you have this app on your screen on your phone, it will be able to go get you content whether it's offline or not. Right. Yes. The short answer is yes. Yes. So no, no, no. I mean, it's so the so yeah the question the I guess the remark about service workers that the ability to I think we need to give microphones to everybody. We should have it as an agora, and so everybody can talk. But yeah, but no, you no. I think you're absolutely right. It's a very good point. Is that you can offload, and actually there's another API which is also like the cousin of the service workers, if you want, or the brother. It's called a web worker. So let's get things even more complicated here with another API, which is the browser API, which is the web worker, which is dedicated to that use. It's like it's a separate thread, and so if you want to do a very intensive calculation in your app, well, you don't have to because you can offload it to your web worker, and the web worker is going to work really hard on this and bring it back to the app as soon as it can. Meanwhile, the interest of that is that your app can still be reactive to your user. So like if you're clicking on things, your app is still going to be able to handle that. And meanwhile, the web worker is able to do the calculations and bring it back whenever it's done. Yes, that's correct. No, that's okay, but you can also do that in your service worker if you want to. Yeah. So I guess another okay, another question. Yes, yes. The self in the code writer is just a reference for the service worker. No, it's given to you just like window in the when you're working with them is provided to you. Yeah, and then you can add listeners to it. So one thing about the service workers I wanted to talk about is uh, Workbox. So Workbox is a library offered by Google, and the cool thing about this is that all this code right there with Workbox, you don't even have to worry about it. It will just do it for you. So it will install a service worker for you, and then you don't even need to worry about the logic behind it. It will just handle and provide the cache whenever necessary. And so it works with Webpack, and also we're talking about the difference between mobile apps and web apps. There's a few gotchas that I talked about already, and yeah, that's really all about it. I mean, we talked about the life cycle a little bit with register. Um, yeah, I think we can also DevTools. Chrome has amazing DevTools for your web service workers, so you can just make sure you don't fall into the trap because you sometimes your service worker is in a bad state and you need to just eradicate it. So with the DevTools, you can do that. And